Every truth hides a darker secret.
The air smells of gasoline, salt, and hot asphalt. America still believes that the future means speed and light. But there's a shadow that doesn't like the light. It comes to the edges of cities, to parking lots by the water, to cars where youth thinks the world belongs only to them. This shadow doesn't just kill, it speaks. It sends letters to newspapers, folds symbols into ciphers, calls the police, and gives itself a name that will become myth, Zodiac. He turns the city into a stage, the press into a microphone, the investigation into an audience, and murder into text. And the most chilling thing isn't the blood. The most chilling thing is their voice. A voice that hasn't gone silent for decades. Tonight, we'll follow his trail. Only through verified facts. With precision and respect for those who survived. We won't sensationalize their violence. We'll look at how an idea can capture a city. And why it still hasn't faded. 1. Lake Herman Road, December 20, 1968. A deep night on a gravel turnout between Benicia and Vallejo. Betty Lou Jensen, 16, and David Faraday, 17, are shot beside their parked car. No witnesses. No motive. Nothing stolen. No signature. This will later be recognized as Zodiac's first confirmed attack. 2. Blue Rock Springs, July 4, 1969. A parking lot at Blue Rock Springs Park, Vallejo. Darlene Ferrin, 22, is killed, Michael Mago, 19, survives. The shooter approaches from the passenger side and opens fire. Then returns to fire again. Shortly after, the Vallejo police receive a phone call. A calm male voice reports a double shooting and mentions details not yet public. He identifies himself, Zodiac. That call marks the beginning of a dialogue. 3. Lake Berryesser, September 27, 1969. A sunny afternoon picnic near Lake Berryesser. Brian Hartnell, 20, and Cecilia Shepard, 22. The attacker wears a black hood with a sewn-on crosshair symbol. He ties the couple, then stabs them both. Hartnell survives, Cecilia dies in hospital 2 days later. On their car door, written in black marker, the dates of previous murders, and the symbol. This is where the theater begins. And where the emblem appears for the first time. 4. Presidio Heights, San Francisco, October 11, 1969. Taxi driver Paul Stein, 29, is shot in his cab. At the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets. Teenagers in the house across the street see a man wiping blood and cutting off part of Stein's shirt. Days later, that same piece of fabric arrives at the newspaper. With another letter, proof of authorship. A composite sketch is made. The city begins to panic. The confirmed record. 5 killed, 2 survivors, a cross for verified attacks. Zodiac himself claimed dozens more in his letters. But we'll stay with what's documented. And watch how a text grows around a fact. Summer, 1969. Letters arrive at the offices of the San Francisco Chronicle and 2 other newspapers. The author demands that sections of a 408-character cipher, Z for 08, be printed, promising to reveal the secret. When decoded, the first lines read like a manifesto. I like killing people, misspelled, nameless, posing. The cipher will be cracked not by the FBI, but by a schoolteacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Harden of Salinas. The Bureau later confirms their solution. It becomes the first public proof that their voice is real. Autumn 1969. New cryptograms, Z340, Z13, Z32. Threats against school buses. Details only investigators should know. And a blood-stained piece of Paul Stein's shirt. The killer's seal of authenticity. Police walk a razor's edge between safety and public interest. Publishing the letters feeds the Zodiac's brand. But refusing to print them means losing the only channel that might expose a mistake or save a life. The city turns into a printing press of fear. Z340, the 340-symbol cipher mailed on November 8, 1969, became an iceberg at the heart of the case for half a century. It wasn't solved until December 2020, when an international trio, David Aranchak, USA, Sam Blake, Australia, and Jarl van Eyck, Belgium, finally broke it. The FBI confirmed the result. Its content? Bravado. Denial of identity. Mockery of a TV show. No names. No revelation. In 2024, researchers published a full breakdown of their method. The key detail remains. There's no I am, only the role. Why did it work? Because fear needs a medium. And the Zodiac made the media his bloodstream. He dictated a rhythm. Murder letter publication, new threat, new cipher. He turned everyone, editor, reader, detective, into a participant. And then, when tension peaked, he vanished, leaving behind a voiceprint instead of a name. Contradictions and traps. Witness descriptions clash. Handwriting comparisons divide experts. Evidence aligns, then drifts apart. In Presidio Heights, witnesses saw a white male, but Dispatch mistakenly broadcast a search for a black suspect. Minutes lost, opportunity gone. Letters came from different postmarks. Stamps and envelope saliva may hold DNA. But contamination and age make the profiles uncertain even today. It's a field where certainty is the most dangerous illusion. Arthur Lee Allen. The most famous suspect, right place, right time. Odd behavior, weapons, talk of ciphers, plenty of smoke. But handwriting analysis and partial DNA never tied him definitively to Zodiac. He died in 1992, uncharged. Their crowning never came. Other names surfaced in waves. Journalists, neighbors, convenient dead men. In 2021, a civilian group called the Casebreakers loudly announced a new candidate, Gary Porst. But the FBI and local departments have never confirmed it. The official stance remains. Case open, unsolved. Media noise is not evidence. Why more than 50 years without an ending? Fragmented jurisdiction, Vallejo, Benicia, Napa, San Francisco, for police systems, for databases. Hybrid MO, shootings, stabbings, daylight and dark, investigators still debate which are core and which copycats. Media factor, the louder the case, the more false confessions and bogus tips. Time, evidence decay, lost artifacts, dead witnesses. And yet, the case lives on. A template for new forensic frontiers. Every few years headlines appear. Digital handwriting forensics. Rescanned latent prints. Ultra-low input DNA analysis. But as of now, there is still no official conclusion. Would you like me to continue directly with the closing narration of the Zodiac chapter, the reflective outro that links the myth, the silence, and the psychology of the killer, in this same voice? Zodiac is often painted as a genius of evil. But strip away the romanticism, and something more terrifying remains. He understood the city's language. In the age of newspapers and evening newscasts, he turned the press into his megaphone. In the era of the Cold War and new technologies, he turned ciphers into a black box the whole city tried to open, and always found nothing there but a voice. He infected the system with a pattern of reaction. Police had to answer, editors had to print, families had to wait for the next letter. That reaction was his power. There is a second side, though, memory. Because of letters, logs, surviving call recordings, and ciphers, the case has a rare kind of audiobook for future investigators. So Zodiac isn't only about fear. It's about tools born from fear, interagency cooperation, behavioral analysis, media handling and publication ethics, and cryptanalysis in forensics. The paradox is that a horrifying set of coordinates produced useful methods. And above all, the people who survived. Michael Mago and Brian Hartnell, their voices matter more than the myth. Their testimony is the frame that keeps the story from turning into a legend without faces. San Francisco in the late 1960s was a place of hope, flowers, protests, psychedelia, a faith in freedom. Yet in those same years, when thousands spoke of love and peace, envelopes arrived with bloodstains and marks of death. Newspapers became an arena of fear. Newsrooms argued whether to print the letters, publish and feed the monster, or withhold and risk losing the only verification channel. The San Francisco Chronicle editor recalled, "Every time a new envelope arrived, the newsroom turned cold. We knew, while he was writing, he was alive. That meant someone, perhaps, was already dead." Zodiac demanded publication of his ciphers under threat of attacking school buses. He wrote, "I am going to move in on the school bus and shoot out the front tire. When it stops I will pick off the kids one by one." That line triggered a city-wide panic. Children stopped traveling alone, police began escorting buses, teachers watched classroom doors as children left school. No attacks followed, but the effect was achieved. The city was living in fear. Zodiac understood that fear is also a form of killing, only slow. The composite sketch. After the taxi driver Paul Stein was murdered, 3 teenagers saw a man leaving the scene. Description: white male, 35 to 45, solid build, short hair, horn-rimmed glasses. Yet Dispatch broadcast a search for a black suspect, a mistake that may have cost precious minutes. Witnesses later said police even encountered a man matching the description but released him without cross-checking. The sketch was circulated nationwide. Thousands called with accusations, neighbors, friends, relatives. False confessions poured in, more than 120 people claimed to be Zodiac. Among them, mentally ill individuals, fame seekers, people wanting to make history. The investigation drowned in paperwork. Evil dissolved into noise. And all this happened amid a transforming America. 1969, Man on the Moon, the 1970s, protests, technology, psychology, computers. And between those milestones, a man with a gun and a cipher who made the whole country believe in a myth. The irony is that industrial progress, new communications, mass press, radio and TV, all the things meant to enlighten, became channels of terror. The city amplified the killer's voice, and the louder the headlines, the deeper Zodiac sank into the shadows. The 1990s. Technology offered new hope, not only photos and fingerprints, but DNA. On envelopes, stamps, and paper where Zodiac licked the glue, epithelial cells, saliva, and skin flakes might remain, a kind of genetic autograph. In the 2000s labs began testing, results mixed. Early samples were contaminated. Some letters were proven hoaxes. Some material had been stored in shared archives with high risk of cross-contamination. The FBI and police stated officially, "We have samples, but their provenance cannot be guaranteed." 2018, the world learns about genetic genealogy, the technique that helped catch the Golden State Killer. People talk about Zodiac again. If one killer was found this way, another can be too. But problems remain: old samples, small amounts of DNA, low quality. Jurisdictional messes, different agencies, different archives, private labs. Crucially, there's no 100% certainty that any profile truly belongs to him. As of now, 2025, no profile is recognized as a gold standard. Any match is a probability, not a fact, and that's science being honest. Evil may have left traces, but they age like everything living. The paradox is simple: the more technologies we invent, the less confident we become that we can recognize evil, because evil masks itself as coincidence, as statistics, as a scrap of data. Today, what we still have: handwritten letters, a voice on tape, and stories that won't let the city forget. In the Zodiac case files, there are thousands of pages. Bullets, letters, photographs, maps, transcripts, theories. But if you look long enough, it all begins to blur. From the details of horror, a metaphor emerges. Zodiac isn't a name, it's a structure of fear. He is a text we keep reading. An era that turned into legend. A mirror where the city sees itself and keeps asking, why couldn't we stop him? But maybe that question is the answer. This story isn't about the killer. It's about the system that was learning to see. About a society that, for the first time, faced the truth. That evil could be intelligent, emotionless, and communicative. He didn't hide in basements, he wrote letters. He didn't run, he stayed visible. He was a product of the information age. And that's why he became a ghost for the age of data. More than half a century has passed. The case remains open. Their name remains unknown. But maybe the story doesn't need a period. Because every time we return to these letters, we're reminded how vital it is not to lose the voice of reason in the noise of fear. If you've listened this far, you're not just a viewer. You're someone who cares. Someone who believes that even in chaos, there's still meaning to be found. Like the video if what you heard wasn't a story about horror, but about humanity. Subscribe if you want more. The next investigation is already waiting. Because as long as we keep talking about it, Zodiac hasn't won. Silence is his territory.